As you guys have probably figured out if you've been on my channel for a while, I'm a pretty big fan of 3D platformers. So when I saw the completionist's review of Ratchet & Clank, I just knew I had to get it. Or I guess as it would be more appropriate to call it, Ratchet & Clank the movie, the game. Yeah, they recently made an animated movie based off the original Ratchet & Clank game, and then made a game based off that movie, which from what I can tell is mostly a remake of the original game. And they even make fun of that in the opening sequence of the game. So anyway, I guess I'll start with the story of the game. The story stars a Lombax named Ratchet who dreams of joining an interplanetary peacekeeping initiative called the Galactic Rangers, led by Captain Quark. And it also stars a defective warbot named Clank who was created by the villains of the game and manages to escape from the factory he was created in. And the two of them have to team up to stop the evil Dr. Nefarious and Chairman Drek from destroying the galaxy. And all of it's told from Captain Quark's perspective as he's sitting in prison. There's a bit more to it than that, but I don't really want to get into spoiler territory. And there were a few plot twists in there that I thought were really good and I probably would have been caught off guard by had I not seen the completionist review and spoiled all of them for myself. In terms of characters in the game, there's 4 that are really going to be there throughout most of it. You have Ratchet, who kinda just feels like a typical protagonist, not like it's a bad thing or anything, he's still likable, there's just nothing about him that particularly stands out to me. You've got Clank, who's more so smart and calculating, while Ratchet kinda likes to rush into things. Chairman Drek, who you can often hear talking to his minions, and he talks a lot like a businessman, probably because he is one. And I gotta say, at least in my opinion, I think that's a pretty creative choice for a villain. And from what I understand, he's the only character that doesn't have his voice actor from the original game. But the guy voicing him now does do a pretty good job. And lastly, we've got my personal favorite character in the game, Captain Quark. This guy is completely full of himself and he's absolutely hilarious. He's a really arrogant character, but he's one of those arrogant characters who you really enjoy watching when they appear on screen, as opposed to them being incredibly annoying. The humor in this game is also good. It's not one of the funniest games I've ever played or anything, but it's still pretty funny. So how about the music of the game? It's not anything particularly memorable, but it does sound very nice and fits well with the levels that it's in. The graphics in this game are absolutely breathtaking. All the areas in the game look amazing and each one of them looks different. So this is the graphical power of the PS4. Dang, I was missing out. But now I suppose it's time we move on to the gameplay. Like I said before, this game's a platformer, but it also has a good bit of combat involved as well. You get weapons in this game. Like, a lot of weapons. There's not so many that you lose track of them or they start to repeat, but there's just enough to give you a wide variety of ways to kill your enemies. I like just about every weapon in this game, but my personal favorite has to be Mr. Zircon. You do have to buy the weapons though, with bolts, but if you're good enough about collecting them, you'll never get to the point where you have to grind for a new weapon or anything. Also, your weapons level up when you use them enough, and you can upgrade them using raritanium that you find. Something about the gameplay that's not really a problem, but is kind of a disappointment, is that there aren't really a whole lot of bosses. But don't worry, the few bosses that they do have are challenging and fun. The core gameplay on its own is really fun, but the game also throws in a couple extra things to give you more variety, such as using the Trespasser to hack into doors, hoverboard races, and of course, the segments where you play as Clank. While Clank only has a few segments in the game, they are pretty memorable. They basically involve you finding these small robots called Technobots that do different things to perform certain tasks and get further. Aside from my complaint about there not being many bosses, I can't really find anything wrong with this game. And even that thing about there not being many bosses was kind of a minor nitpick. Overall, this was a great game. If you're a fan of 3D platformers and you have a PS4, I can't think of a single reason not to pick this up. Well, unless you're short on money, in which case that kinda makes sense. With all that said though, I'm Defothlizer and I'll see you in the next video.